we're gonna switch topics from Clemson, who I think had the biggest win of the week, to another team that Jack is going to. And this is the weirdest thing that's ever happened on this Air Roughness to me. In the group text today, very early this morning, and I want to go read it exactly. Okay. Everybody okay? What happened there? That's Jack laughing.
Jack's laughing.
I don't know that Jack's ever laughed that loudly on the show. Let me just make sure I find it. Okay. So early on, TCU jumped on Oklahoma, right? Jack, at 12:44 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Jack texts the group, says, y'all better hope this doesn't keep up because I'm going to raise hell. Yeah. Casey said, you have every right to. Jack, yes. I don't know that there was ever a big, huge pushback like doubt on your TCU take. And plus, I don't know that I don't enjoy your TCU take, but is there some sort of beef with the rest of the
No. It's just like it's time for me to, puff out my chest and say, hey, TCU, Horned Frogs, I think this is how they do it. I believed in them before anybody. And last week I said they were the best team in the Big 12, which they may not be because Oklahoma State, which I'm sure we'll get to, looked really good today. They had a big win. But what TCU did today, and everyone's going to make it about Oklahoma and how bad Oklahoma is. No, TCU is an electric team, and I'm really excited to see how far they can take this. And I put on the graphic, Big 12, they're the surprise team, and they were going to beat Oklahoma. And
we didn't have beef about it. There wasn't like a beef.
Well, last week
Wait a minute. I'm not going to let Jack spike the football too bad on that.
No.
Hold on. He had TCU as his surprise team. I mean, Jack, I had Kansas as mine. Okay.
Yeah, and next week we got a big matchup.
Oh, it's me and Jack next week.
Yeah,
it's not. We don't have to dick measure right at this moment.
No. This is for the
right.
Big 12.
You're both right. You're both right. No, to your question, Brandon, is that there wasn't like beef. It wasn't like I can only speak for myself. It wasn't like I was like, oh, Jack, you're an idiot. What I said was that I didn't see this being a game, regardless if it was TCU or not. I did not see this being a game OU would lose because of the fact that they lost last week. And also, I knew TCU had beaten SMU the week before, but what I said was Oklahoma's not SMU. Well, turns out Oklahoma played TCU worse than SMU did. So he had a right to raise hell against those points.
Now, Jack, I will push back on one thing. You said this is about TCU, they're electric, and a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's about Oklahoma, they're bad. It's a little bit about Oklahoma. You get beat last week to a team that just lost to Tulane. You get beat at home to a team just lost to Tulane. Then you're having questions about who you are, what you are, and you have to answer it. You have to show up the next week and be ready to play football. And they got housed from the start. There's nothing fluky about this. They got an absolute country-fied ass whipping from beginning to end. And that ain't an Oklahoma I've seen in the last 2 decades. Even when Oklahoma's taking a step back, it hasn't been like they just show up to TCU and get absolutely mollywopped. So I think if I'm an Oklahoma fan, I'm probably still all aboard Brent Venables because he's recruiting well and he's going to turn around. But buddy, the job ahead of him might be a lot harder than we thought previously.
Oh, Brandon, I'm so glad you brought that up because, I've given OU fans things with 2 hands. On one hand, I falsely and fakely, that's a word, believe in them every single year. I retired that officially on Twitter today. I'm done believing in Oklahoma. On the other hand, I gave them a ton of off-season content because I said, you guys are going to be worse off without Lincoln Riley. And what did they say? Brent Venables is going to change the culture. Brent Venables is going to fix the defense. This team and the fans are more excited to play for Brent Venables than they were with Lincoln Riley. And today, if we're looking at, and not to take anything away from what TCU did, because I do agree that it's kind of a mixture of both. TCU had 668 yards.
It could have been 850 if they wanted to.
That defense has not given up that many points since the 2019 LSU Tigers team that beat them in the college football playoff, which is one of the best offenses in college football ever. So all this offseason bullshit that people like to spew out from Norman that, oh, well, listen, Lincoln was a problem. The defense could never get it right. They're going to take the next step. And I know it's only October 1st, but you can't give up nearly 700 yards of offense and have anything to say about Lincoln Riley. And I know we're watching USC right now, or it's on as we speak, but OU fans were so concerned about what people thought OU would look like without Lincoln Riley, and Venables was the answer. Tonight shows that it didn't matter who was going to be that coach. They could still have issues on defense.
No, I think this was probably a humbling moment for Oklahoma fans where they realized, you know what? The old guy's gone. The old guy's gone. I can't worry about that guy anymore.
I hope that's the way they feel.
If something comes up later, I'll laugh at him, fine. But right now, I need to focus on what's this Brent Venables. Is this team a 6-6 team? Is he going to struggle all year? What's happening here? Because we got to get ready to go to the SEC soon. All right. And I can't be out here giving up 600 yards to TCU, getting ready to go. Now, they did lose their quarterback early, but they were already down big before they lost him. And I think the writing was on the wall at that point anyway.
Wasn't it? I mean, I know when Jack texted us, which is around the end of the first quarter, it was 20-3. I mean, it was disgusting from the get-go.
The ass whipping was immediate and thorough. And
yes.
Now, listen, we'll talk about it in a minute, but the Big 12 is just a big old fun mess of football right now because Oklahoma State just went on the road and got them a real good win we'll talk about in a minute. Kansas is 5-0. You've got, obviously, the team we're talking about right now. Who is it? The TCU, undefeated. Oklahoma's already got 2 losses. Kansas State hasn't taken a loss in the Big 12. Like, there's a bunch of stuff to come out in the wash. And by the way, Texas is laying there. If they get the quarterback back, they're laying there as a dangerous animal too. So the Big 12 is fascinating from rooter to tutor this year. And I can't wait to get into it front to back, rooter to tutor. That was
you're full of like Southern cliches tonight.
Yeah, the later it gets, the more of a Southern grandmother I turn into.
Well, that's cute.
And I'm gonna stop the show in a minute to get one of y'all to go get a switch.
Did you get beat with switches in school, or are you?
Oh God, yeah. My grandmother told me
really?
I had to go. Yeah, you never had to go get a switch?
No. I think that I was like the generation where you weren't allowed to do that in school anymore.
Oh, that wasn't in school. That was more your grandmother or something like that.
Oh, yeah, no.
My mom did. Ruler? Did you get hit with a ruler? What'd you get hit with?
A wooden spoon was always threatened on me.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, but no, never get a switch. Wait, I'm sorry. What to a rooter?
The rooter is like a hog. All right. The rooter's the nose. They root around the ground.
Yeah.
And then the tutor is the other side.
Okay. I couldn't remember what word it was. Okay. The rooter to the tutor.
Big 12 fascinating was the point.
Yes. And, back to the OU TCU game, that is, and I fall obviously victim to this when we talk about it. It's just like my brain specifically, and people who think like me, it's like you look and you say, okay, like, yeah, TCU has been decent. They've not been garbage. They've not been, no offense, they've not been Kansas. However, OU is OU, and OU will bounce back. And they always have weird games against Kansas State. We saw that last week. But, again, to TCU's credit, I mean, Max Duggan, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Like they're a force in the Big 12. And OU, if they haven't let go of the Lincoln Riley stuff, it's time. It's time to let go.
Well, let me read you a list, okay? Going back to 2015, here are the total losses for Oklahoma in a season. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Beginning in 2015, 2 losses. 2016, 2 losses. 17, 2 losses. 18, 2 losses. That's 11-2, 11-2, 12-2, 12-2. 2019, 2 losses, 12-2. 2020, 9-2, 2 losses. 2021, 11-2, 2 losses. Every year since 2015, they have not had more than 2 losses. It is October 1st, and they have 2 losses, and they still have Baylor. They still have Oklahoma State. They still have Texas, they still have a lot of meat on the bone, and they've already taken 2 losses. Brent Venables is going to struggle through this year until he can get to signing day and show his team hope for the future, which is probably very likely, but he's going to have to recruit a big, and he is recruiting a big time class, but they need defensive help and they need it fast.
And you know what? The thing about him needing a year is like, that's a normal thing that happens. That is a normal situation, especially because he was a coordinator before. I think that the issue is that if you took it in a vacuum and you put a different team name on it, and you said, hey, you're losing your coach that was very successful, that was getting NFL head coaching job, looks like you're losing your Heisman candidate quarterback, you'd be like, okay, like, yeah, it might, maybe not a complete rebuild, but like you might take a step back. OU fans didn't feel that way. That's why it is so jarring, I think, excuse me, because it's like we were told this wouldn't happen.
One more point and then I'll move on. This is very petty out of me, but as a college football fan, I love when good programs are bad. I love when an elite program who loses once or twice a year goes through a year that's not very good. I love Notre Dame not being all that good this year. I love Oklahoma not being, because it shows that life is, first of all, college football is hard, and a lot of these programs make it look easy. But it shows that life is fair and just, because every now and then everybody needs to be humbled a little bit. So I'd like for Oklahoma fans to live how I live for a year, see how they like it. I don't think they're going to like it. All right.
You can make the argument, Brandon, that it's, and this argument happens all the time. Is it tougher to live be just a mediocre team all the time, but you never have hope? Or is it tough to be a team that's usually always there at the end and then you suck? Which one's worse?
It's tougher to be a mediocre team year in, year out.
I think one thing that you're like, we're giving Brent Venables too much of a pass, I think.
I don't know if that's true or not. We got to see how bad it gets. So we're also assuming that it's going to stay bad. We're assuming that he doesn't end up 9-3 or 8-4, something like that. So I got to let him get through the season.
We were told he was the best defensive coordinator in the country, and he came into Oklahoma not with a cupboard that was bare. He came into Oklahoma with some talent on that defense. He brought in some from the transfer portal as well, and he just allowed 650 yards to TCU. That's unacceptable.
It is. It's unacceptable. I guess and this is where I think that like again, the transfer portal does change it, but Oklahoma had defensive issues with Lincoln Riley. We know that.
Not as bad as this. Not as bad as this. That was embarrassing.
But it is like, if he is, and he was the best defensive coordinator in the country, whatever else we want to say, he doesn't have Clemson's defensive players on his roster right now. And I'm not giving him a pass.
But it's not like he has UConn's players on defense. Well,
that's true. That's a good point, Jack.
All right. Now we move on to the third game I wanted to pull out before we get into all my other takes. That's 2 mediocre games in a row for the Georgia Bulldogs. Now they won 26-22 on the road at Missouri, so they stay undefeated. I'm not sure they came into the season at number 3 in the nation and catapulted themselves to number 1 with very, very strong performances out of the gate, destroying Oregon, destroying South Carolina, and then beating Samford 33-0. But just as easily as they jumped up to number 1 because of strong performances, I feel like 2 bad performances in a row has to be a sign of some concern. Missouri is god-awful. I mean, just not good at all. And Georgia needed everything they had to come back and ended up taking that game in the last 5 minutes, but not inspiring stuff from the Georgia Bulldogs.
Not at all. And I feel like I gave Georgia a pass last week. They had it was a sleepwalk game, whatever you want to say. It was like, all right, the first time they kind of looked like they could potentially have some issues. They played so badly in the first half tonight. And the fact that they didn't lead the game until there was like 4.5 minutes left at Missouri is exactly why you do need to be worried about it. And Stetson Bennett, like if you look at the split of his stats between the first half and the second half, I mean, it's crazy. So I agree with you. Not only that, and I mean, Jack and Katie obviously are on social media and on the duty of it, but like you were seeing things like, Kirby's lost control of this Georgia team because there was like things happening that just didn't look like they had their shit together. Missouri, first of all, Missouri's kicker is like, I mean, he had one hell of a night. I know they ended up losing, but
he's a gorgeous man.
He is a thick boy.
Talk about a bounce back. Last week, he literally blew the game by missing like a extra point for a field goal. And then today he was hitting he almost had Big Cat have to pay $100,000 for all the beer and alcohol drink in Columbia, Missouri tonight.
Mevis. Yeah. I don't know his first name, but I know his last name is Mevis. And I remember him doing some crazy shit last year because I remember Glenny Balls in the gambling cave being excited about Mevis. But beside the point, the fact that you were in a dogfight with Missouri as weird shit happens in every conference, no doubt, including the SEC. But we were saying, and I mean, again, I can only speak for myself, but like that Georgia was run away by far the best team in the country. You don't struggle against Missouri down to the last 4 minutes of the game if you're the best team in the country by far.
Yeah, the thing is, when they got off that 3-0 start, we did crown them, and we thought, oh wow, they look like they're going to walk through this thing untested, and they've been tested twice now, and that's before they take a trip to Kentucky. That's before they go down to Jacksonville to play Florida. That's before they have to try to deal with Hendon Hooker in Tennessee. Like if they're struggling with Missouri on the road, going to have some interesting road trips in the Southeastern Conference coming up very, very soon. Now, that's our 3 games I pulled out